Hey guys, it's Greg from Bodhi Surfboards. Welcome to the Bodhi Surfboards YouTube channel. In this series of videos, we're going to be watching Jono build a 9-foot Malibu. We're going to start today building the frame, and each week or whenever we can, we're going to post a video so you can see what's going on. We'll step you through the whole process, explain what's going on, show you a few intricacies, and take it from there. So basically what we've got is the spine of the board. So this is your stringer. And then we've got the skirts. So the skirts are the outside, which is what the rails are going to attach to. The first thing we want to do is put the ribs. So the ribs are your long parts, and they're going to go into the slots down the frame. Each of the ribs is numbered to make it easy, and then we've got a couple of numbers on the frame, on the actual spine itself. So you know that number 1 starts with number 1. I think it's number 15 goes up to number 15, and we'll just place those in. But what we need to do before we do that is actually just adjust what we call the peg. So the peg will go into the notches, but we need to bevel that so we can get a good curve on it. So the way that we're going to do that is actually so we're going to take, basically we're just going to get all the shorter pieces. We know that the shorter pieces are going to be towards the nose and the tail, so that's where the most amount of bend is. And the way we're going to do it is just to take the edge off, so you can see that it's angled like that. Yep. And then once that goes into the notch, it will actually allow it to bend. If it doesn't, it'll stay straight, and you get what's called a digital curve. So instead of it being a flowing curve, you'll actually have facets to it, or breaks. So we want to do that for all of these short ribs. Okay, so when we create this bevel, basically you want it as a ramp from the bottom of the rib to the top. So it's like that, so a real little wedge, and it wants to hit at least up until the edge of it. So it doesn't want to come to here. I'll do one incorrectly. So if I did this one, so you don't want it like that, where it's not up to the edge of the rib and that there's a big flat piece there. So basically like that is what you want. So a nice little ramp all the way to the edge of the rib. Okay, so what we're going to do is basically just arrange the ribs so they're all numbered in here, so we know which position they go in. And once we've done that, we'll basically start putting the ribs in. So they're all backwards at the moment. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then I think we've got 12 there. Okay. So a way to check that the rib is correct. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got rib number 7 here. A good way to check that it's actually the correct rib is that it will be the same size. So if you find that you put this rib here, it'll be proud at the top or the bottom, so it's not the right fit. So that one's going to go in there, and the widest rib, or your middle rib, is generally the first one to put in, because what that will do is help that frame to stand up. So from there we can go backwards, and if you come across any with the bevel you've put on the edge, make sure that the bevel that you've cut faces inwards. Yeah. Yep. So if it's at the tail, it's going to be on the inside of the board. If it's at the nose, it's going to be on the inside of the board. So we'll just lay these out. So I believe the thing to do is to leave comments below. If you see Jono looking somber, as if he's listening to a bad opera, comment below. So what we've got is all of the ribs placed in the spine, all of the bevels are pointed inwards, and then what we're going to do is put the skirts on the board. So with the skirts, everything will be joined, and just make sure that the joins and the backing plates are internal on the board. So this is this side, that's that side, and what I'll do is get some cable ties. So if you want to go on that side, we're going to start from the middle and we're going to do the same rib at the same time. So the way that it works is that your joins will join the whole way through the board, and you just want to put that notch in there, grab a cable tie, whack it through the hole on the outside, and then thread it through. And the way I try and do it is to get that end, the clip, flush on the deck. So what we've done is we've got the frame together. So at the moment it hasn't been glued up, it's still pretty flexy, but you can see how big it is. It's a beast. Oh, yeah. You'll see that the shape isn't quite correct yet, but this is just the skeleton, so we're going to use this as the foundation. We will glue it up later, but what we're going to do is actually just use it to make sure that when we put the decks together, which we're going to do next, is that we've got the right width and the right length. So we'll just put this to the side and we'll get some decks ready. So basically what I've done is laid out some timber for the decks. So because I cut down my own trees, when we get the tree milled, basically it gets sliced. So when we fold it out, you get the book matching through the timber. So the book matching is a mirroring of the timber, so you can actually see the grain patterns will have a lot of symmetry to it. The most important thing with the deck is that it's long enough and wide enough for the frame to fit on top of. So I'll just grab this frame. So even though this is backwards, doesn't really matter. So that's going to sit on there. It's probably not going to reach the end because what we're going to do is actually round the nose off. So this is just to give it a little bit of extra length, but we'll round that off. But the most important thing is that it's long enough to the end of the rib and wide enough for the board. Yeah. So what you want to do is put two decks together, and we're just going to use a simple edge jointing process, which I'll explain. But your job is to make sure that it looks good to your eye. So whether you've got book match timber or you've just got off the shelf timber, you want to make sure that it looks good. So what we've got in this deck is a couple of bits of Western red cedar. So the reason that we use the Paulownia and the Western red cedar is that it's light and it's strong, but it doesn't have a really high oil content. If there's too much oil in the board, it won't allow you to glass properly because it'll delaminate. So again, all we've got here that's different is the Western red cedar, so you can lay your pinstripes out however you want. You could put these bits on the outside. You can take a piece out of here and put it in your other deck. You can do all sorts of different things. Yeah. So your job is to lay that out, and then once you've laid it out and you're happy, we'll glue it up. Sweet. Okay, so now that we've got the decks laid up, the frame's sitting on there, we know that it's long enough, we know that it's wide enough, so what we want to do is glue these decks up. I'll just chuck this down here. Okay. So this process is called edge jointing. There is a way you can do it which is called a bead and a cove joint. So you can get a router bit that will actually put a half curve in this one and a round on this one, so they sit in there like that. This is much easier, and this process is all done so you can build at home without too many hassles. You definitely want a set of gloves. We're going to use two different types of glue, one for each different deck, just to show the difference. The first one is a tech grip, or a a Sika tech grip, which is basically a polyurethane glue. You can get a Sally's product, or you can get a Gorilla Glue, which will do the same thing. Really good because it's a good texture, waterproof, easy to sand, fills lots of gaps. And the other one is just a PVA glue, and this one's an exterior. So the way this process works, and it's called edge jointing because we're going to put a join down the edge of the board. Basically, you just want a nice clean bead of glue down that edge. So with this tech grip, or with the Sika polyurethane glue, you have enough working time that once you've done a bead down the entire length of the timber, it's not going to dry out. You can lay it down and basically just wait until you've done all the rest. It will expand, so you don't need a massive bead of glue. You just want it to be nice and consistent. So once you've done that length, you can just lay it down on the table. Yeah. The way that I do it is that I'll put a bead of glue on the inside, 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 all the way to the middle. Don't worry about the stringer. And again from the other side, inside, 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 inside. Once you've got glue on all of those, we'll push it all together, put plastic over the top, bits of wood on top of that, and then weights, and then we'll clamp it all together. If you want to go up that end, Jono, what we're going to do is just squeeze these decks, or squeeze these planks together. So if you want to go from these big ones, yeah, and just sort of work them in, and then we're going to lift these ones up and work that in, yeah. And then this one. Good. Side. Now, one of the most important things if you're going to build your own board is get lots of builder's film, because the only thing this glue won't stick to is builder's film. And what we want to do is lay maybe 6 or 7 of these strips across the board. Okay, there's plenty of working time with this glue, so there's no real hurry. Trick. And then on top of each bit of plastic, I'm just going to stick a bit of wood. No, no. That's it. Some longer ones for there. And then on top of each one of these, we're going to stick a weight. So if you want to grab the weights, I'll grab some clamps. Okay, so that's basically the end of day one. So what we've got is the frame, we've got our decks together. The next part of the build is cutting the shape out on the decks, gluing the bottom deck on and putting the bracing inside the board. Before you see this next, I'll put some glue on that so it's nice and solid, but that's day one. Ew.
Sweet, cheers, happy days.
Happy days.